Hello and welcome to Big Bandit Gaming. Today I have Izayah,
Good morning.
Colton,
That's me.
Josh,
Hello.
and I am your host, Troy. I just want to know one thing from you guys. What have you been up to? What have you been playing? We're just going to jump straight to the games. I don't care about your personal
Whoa,
lives
that's so
whatsoever.
I don't think that's on the dock. Oh no.
Tell me what you're playing right now.
Pretty bad game. You guys probably never heard of it. It's pretty bad. It's called Overwatch 2.
Oh, yeah. I heard they made another game similar to that, though.
Yeah, it's called Overwatch 1.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Definitely.
Maybe I should play the first one before I play the second one.
Hey man, I don't know about that one. I think they merged the games. There's no longer a 1. There's just 2.
Well, I guess I'll never play. Yeah, but okay, I use this excuse to say that I have been playing far too much Chivalry 2, a
I've heard.
medieval
Oh,
game where you throw chairs at people and scream very loudly. And it's great. And it's my holdover game till Bayonetta and God of War. So yeah, it was on Game Pass and I remember playing the beta and I was like, oh man, yes, this is what I need right now. As it turns out it's what I need. What you don't need is my fiance trying to study for like a midterm and just the TV behind her just a mass of screaming and metal clanking.
That's all that game is, man. The second you spawn in, it's just like a guy screaming for like 20 seconds straight.
Yes.
So much role playing from what I've seen as well.
It's very fun. But what about you guys? I know we haven't talked about what we've been playing now. It's been kind of slow, so I'm curious.
what have I been playing?
God.
Hmm.
We've been playing quite a bit of Fortnite.
Oh yeah, dude, we have.
Yeah.
Been doing that
Been
quite a
good.
bit. I like the new season. The new season's fun.
All right,
I like
so-
all the stuff they added.
Are you guys playing the mode without the building, or are you mostly just playing the
We're
same
like
mode?
switching back and forth, kind of.
It's fun when you do that, especially. I think it's kind of interesting.
Keeps it fresh. We're getting a lot
Yeah.
of, chicken dinners or whatever. I don't know. Turkey dinners?
Winner for dinner.
Which one's Fortnite?
Which one's
Vic- Victory Royale.
Is that what they call it?
Royale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I thought you guys were playing it as a bit. Like you literally,
Yeah,
everyone's
me
just like,
too.
oh, I don't know. I was like,
I
you guys don't
couldn't
know.
remember.
I don't know.
I mean, that goes to
That's
tell you
great.
how often we see that screen.
Hey, pretty often. Don't say it like that. We win pretty often.
Well, yeah. I mean,
What about you, Colton? What have you been up to besides a little bit of Fortnite?
Well, lately, this past week, they had version 4.0 update of No Man's Sky.
Oh,
I was able to convince my brother to buy it for Switch. I did not know that it wasn't. I thought it was like a full launch on Switch, and I was like, dude, you should play it. The game is crossplay. Like, I'll help you start out. Like, I'll start a new save with you. I'm so excited. So I got him all excited. He bought it for a Switch. And then turns out the game launched on Switch with 0 online components. Like, it's a full launch. Everything launched except,
Crazy.
no multiplayer. And I don't know why they did that. So
wow!
luckily,
I didn't make that clear.
luckily he started a save by himself, and he absolutely loves the game. So I would have felt
nice.
really bad if he hated it playing it by himself. But I was able to get a Dalton and another friend of mine, Jackson, to start the game as well. Dalton's played it before, but we all started a new save. My friend Jackson's on PC, Dalton's on Xbox, I'm on PS5, thinking that we'll all get together because crossplay works. But I think this new update has messed up the multiplayer because we could not play at all. So it's really frustrating because it's a really good update. It changes a lot of things. It makes the game way more playable, but it seems like the whole multiplayer part of it is really struggling right now.
Yeah, I feel like I did try it maybe about a year back when they made the next gen versions. And I was like, this is all right. It seems kind of slow and like a little meandering. And I was like, okay, I think I've had enough. So maybe I need to try again with this update.
I think it's one of those games where, like, if you don't know, like, you really have to have someone, I think, talk you through the tutorial because it's very you can get lost really easily because the menus are I think they're kind of overwhelming. And just trying to learn how to play can be a little exhausting. But I think they've fixed a lot of that with this newest update. A lot of stuff seems to be a lot more clear now. That's why I was excited for my brother to play for the first time. But so I've been playing a little bit of that. It's been fun.
Mix of good, mostly good, just some online troubles. I was surprised. I thought the thing you were going to say is that you found out that it didn't have crossplay when you thought it did, but it had working crossplay. I didn't know that. That's cool.
It's just for some reason I cannot invite anyone that isn't a PlayStation player right now, and that's annoying.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So before we move on to the main top of the show, you guys have anything else you want to throw out there?
I've
Games
been
or not?
Playing Horizon Forbidden West.
Oh,
I know it's Troy's favorite game of the year. But I'm sorry.
To be fair, I've never played it, but
really? I think I'm a little lower on it so far than Colton, but I'm still probably like, I don't know, 12 to 15 hours in tops. But it's just a lot more of Horizon with the glider.
Yeah. This on another note, I just bought a new OLED, so it does all the fancy new features of the consoles, like VRR and all that stuff. So I want to
on that TV.
I really want to try out that game specifically, because they have that mode where it runs at 40 frames per second with the VRR, and it keeps all the 4K and really good visual effects. So you kind of get the frame rate bump with the good visual effects, and so I can play around with all those modes, and Elden Ring won't be as juddery. It's going to be good. I'm excited to set that thing up.
I have one to add.
So not a game, but I got a LG C2 42 inch. So yes, excited to give that a go.
How much was that one?
I got it on sale for $1,000, so $999.
Right.
I think normally it's running like $1,400, and it was like kind of like a sale on top of a sale. And I told my fiance, I was like, I'm not going to buy that thing unless it goes under 1,000. It was like $1 under. And I was like, should I? And she was like, yeah, go for it. So yeah.
Okay. You got the fiance's approval. That's all that matters.
Yeah, and I was able to give her a big upgrade too, because I'm moving.
Yeah.
I'm selling a lot of stuff too, so it kind of helps out that too. So I'm moving my desk and my entertainment system into like an all-in-one. So that TV is just large enough to be considered still a TV, but also just small enough to where you could possibly call it a monitor too. But it's still, I'm going to see how it goes. I'm pretty sure the way I've kind of worked it out and the distance from the TV and stuff, I think it should work out pretty well. I'm a little nervous about how big it is and whether I'll get like strain when using it as like a computer monitor. But I'm used to kind of larger screens, and I already sit way too close to my 55 inch. I don't know if Colton remembers where I used to sit in my room next to that TV.
4 feet away from your TV.
Yeah, I do.
So, so I'm not too worried because I already know that it doesn't bother me to have my
your body's already adjusted to that, I'm sure.
Yeah. So I'm excited. So that'll be a really good TV to put God of War through its paces for sure. So yes.
I want to add that my whole thing been this past month is a big old Sonic the Hedgehog binge. I've rebought some of my old like childhood games I played of Sonic. I've emulated Sonic Heroes and Zero and like the first Riders game. So I'm a whole like schedule of like, okay, I gotta beat these games this time. I even bought Unleashed with the 60 frames like patch on the Xbox Series S. I bought like a whole was it Xbox Live and like a $15 subscription for that, and it was worth it. So I've been doing that, and I've been reading the comics, the IDW comics. Lead writer Ian Flynn writes those, and he also used to write for the Archie comics. We don't talk about that, but he's a great, phenomenal writer. He's truly crafted some amazing stories with these characters, and has a big love for this hedgehog. And he gives us like the content that we've been always wanting for this boy. What was that, Troy?
Nothing. We're good. Yeah. Sounds good for that community. Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's also very funny that you bought that whole subscription for Sonic
Unleashed.
Unleashed. I'm a fan of that.
I
Hey,
would say
hey, man.
I've seen more Sonic games in this house than I think I have in my whole life. Just the past, like,
Colton will come home and he'll see you on the Xbox with the headphones on, and he's like talking to Victoria. I look at him like, is he talking to me? He's like, I'm not talking to you. I'm like, okay.
Are you in the living room? Is that
I'm in the
what's
living
going on?
room.
Oh, okay. Yes.
I get to see the werehog.
I had no idea there were so many different Sonic games. I feel
There
like I see a different one every day.
is a ridiculous amount. Yes.
There
They're
is.
constantly trying to reinvent him. That's why.
Yeah, I'm just excited about Frontiers because they're reinventing him in a way where it's like, okay, we're inventing him in a way where we're happy like with like this sort of like concept, and it kind of goes back to a little bit of the adventure era. So I'm all for it. I'm excited for Frontiers. I already pre-ordered the game. I'm excited. So let's go.
Yeah. Well, before we move on, I keep saying before we move on to topic, but I want to hear what you guys have to say. So we're right before God of War and Bayonetta. Are you guys still pretty hyped for either of those games?
I still am. Yeah.
I feel like I'm
No,
just kind of waiting for those two to hit.
I'm not hyped at all.
Josh,
No, I'm
Bro,
serious. I'm
bro,
serious.
bro.
is there
No, I'm
anything?
serious.
Is there anything else for the rest of the year
Give me a
that
break.
you're interested in jumping in on, Josh?
Ooh, that's a good question. What comes out in like December?
In December, there's the Crisis Core remake, which is very.
Oh yeah, I'm
that's gonna be really good. And also the horror game.
What?
Wow,
Horror?
Whoa.
horror.
So mature.
Okay.
So funny.
Yes, I'm talking about Sonic. No. What's it called? Calypso Protocol.
Oh,
Callisto.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Callisto. Yeah. I'm looking forward to that too.
They just
Wait,
did they
that's
just release the remake for
December?
the Dead Space?
Oh no, and yeah, that's coming January, and that Dead Space remake looks awesome. I'm
Yeah.
really excited about that. They made like all the quality of life changes they need to make. They did, so it's not just like a 1-to-1 gameplay swap, kind of like The Last of Us was. They actually remastered and retooled some like gameplay stuff. So
Yeah.
if you've never played Dead Space, that is the way to go because it's a great game. Even the original 360 PS3 one still holds up. So yes.
I like to say, please excuse my language for saying that word. I thought you actually said that. Sorry, listeners.
You're excused.
To answer your question, Troy, one game I am excited for is
Ooh.
He has one.
Gotham Knights, and it's not because I think it's going to be good.
Interesting.
Not because I think it's going to be good, but it's just it's less of a known quantity than God of War. So like God of War just doesn't. I'm like, okay, I know it's going to probably be at least good. So there's really not much to learn by playing it.
Yeah. Also,
So I want to know, maybe Gotham Knights has something in it that I'm going to really enjoy.
yeah. It might just be like a fun arcadey thing, you know.
Yeah.
Also the Pentiment, right?
Yes,
coming to
I
Game
am
Pass.
excited for that.
That does look really cool. So I hope that actually pans out. The only thing with that is I think it's going to be a cool game. I just don't know if it's going to be my type of game because I'm not really an adventure game person in general. There's a few that I've really enjoyed, but it's usually when they're really light on the puzzles and it's more just like story and plot and stuff. So we'll see how that goes.
That
Like
reminds me.
Night in the Woods is like the last one I played all the way
Throw in real quick. A story heavy game. I'm kind of like you. I'm not usually into like story heavy stuff. Where there's like a lack of gameplay, but
yeah,
I did play Immortality, which is exactly that. It's basically not a game at all. And I liked it.
Did you play it all the way through?
I played it all the way through. I played it more than all the way through.
Yeah, the production on that thing looks kind of insane.
It's crazy. It's honestly, it's an interactive movie. So if you enjoy movies and you want something weird to watch, that's a good one.
This guy did he did that Silent Hill game on PS2 and Wii, I think Shattered Memories, and then he did Her Story, which was another game where you were combing through like found footage, kind of stuff. But this seems like correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a game where you're like combing through like someone's movie career to like Or is it just like this character in her movies, or is there like other scenes where they're not being filmed that you're combing
Yeah,
through?
yeah. So you get to see like behind the scenes and like pre-production, like post-production stuff. It's
Yeah.
interesting.
The found footage stuff looks really cool. Yeah.
I recommend it, especially if you have Game Pass, because it's Game Pass.
Yeah. So is Pentiment too. So Pentiment. I keep saying want to say penultimate. It's not. That's not.
It's a harder word.
Yeah, I
Why you
don't
throwing
know
extra
why.
syllables in there?
I can say pen and ultimate. Those are two words I could say together. But cool. All right, so let us move on to the main topic of our show, and that is indie games.
Golden Ring.
Yeah. So I just want to jump right in here and ask you guys. So the word indie game didn't.
What does it mean?
I want to say when's the first time you guys like kind of knew what an indie game was? Do you remember?
Yeah, I
No.
can easily point like a pinpoint. It was after like discovering Undertale and seeing like the community's response to that. Yeah, it's like
Oh wow, that'd been late.
2015, yeah, 2015, and I was just like, oh, this is an awesome game, and like people were like referring to it as an indie game. It's a term I never heard of. Looked it up and looked more into it, and it's like, yeah, this is sort of what happens when you have a smaller group of developers that are not part of a big brand or a company, and that's what I've always known it as.
Yeah.
The first time I remember understanding what an indie developer was Limbo, probably.
Oh.
I had never heard of Braid until I played The Witness much later. So yeah, my reference there is Limbo.
Yeah, I would say mine was Braid. Like I remember seeing that like Soldier Boy video of him playing Braid and like freaking out. That's an actual video, by the way.
Yeah, that sounds made up.
It's not. It's a thing. It's weird. But
Soldier Boy?
by the Soldier Boy console, yeah. But yeah, it was right around that era. I remember less that I understood what like an indie game developer was, because even back then I didn't like necessarily understand what a developer was, much less an indie developer. But I remember Xbox Arcade pretty clearly. Because I didn't know anyone with the PS3, but people with Xbox, I saw they were able to go online and they're like showing me, hey, we can play Doom like on my 360, like download it. And I was like, that's crazy. And I think they had Braid on there, and I was like, whoa, this is weird. Like, there's no disc,
There's no disc.
Oh, and
yeah.
I think the first time I really thought about what an indie game was, I think it was at your house, Josh. We were playing Supersonic Acrobatic Rocket Power Battle.
Oh my god!
Yes.
And I remember the term indie game. I think that may have been the first time I was hearing that term thrown around. I think it was either that or Minecraft, one of the two.
What would that have been around like 2009-ish?
It had maybe 10.
Okay.
I really don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, at that point, I wasn't listening to. I hadn't gotten into like listening to like podcasts. Like I'd jump on IGN here and there when I could, but I just didn't hear anyone talk about the industry in that way at that point, so I didn't know like how to differentiate. In my head, because this leads into like another question. Like, I wrote down here like what do you think of indie games now versus then? When they started, and I remember it being a big deal because back then games were like $60, all of them. Like, you didn't have like games ranging from like 20 to 30 to 40, with like few exceptions on like PlayStation 2. Like I think Katamari Damacy was like $20 or something crazy. But the idea of like a smaller game at a lower price was just like not a thing up to that point. So I remember getting like PlayStation cards and being like, well, I can't afford a $60 game with this $15 card, but there's like 20 of these smaller games I could get. And I remember that being really cool. But you guys were talking about like the first games you played. My first indie game I bought and played was Flower on the PS3.
Oh yeah.
And it's just it's less that it's like, oh man, I gotta play Flower. It was just that I saw IGN's review right around the time I got a PS3 in like 2009, and I was like, wow, this game looks cool. Like it looks really different. I'm gonna buy it. So yeah, that was my first indie game. Was that game company's Flower.
Was it good?
Like, it's still good. Yeah. There's a really good PS4 version of it that you can still play on the PS5.
I tried it for like a minute. I didn't understand it. I was like, nah, I'm good.
You control it with like the 6-axis. I think you can control it with the sticks on the newer version, but I don't know. I thought it was cool back in the day. But yeah, I mean, if we're talking about like what indie games were back then versus now, I think we don't maybe think of games now as that's an indie game and that's like a full price game. I think the lines have kind of been blurred.
Yeah.
I mean, you still have like, you're never going to mistake like God of War Ragnarok for like an indie game.
Yeah.
But I remember people back then used to be like, like, oh, I'm not going to play that. That's like an indie game. They like as something like budget,
Oh,
I kind of agree with you, but then I want to say that I think that's only the case for the cream of the crop, like indie devs, the ones that have really gotten like their reputation from previous generations. If you just try to jump in with a new indie game like from a studio that's never done anything before, like the odds of them, the audience looking at the game and being like, oh yeah, I'm gonna buy that over God of War, it's not gonna happen. Like it's not gonna get a 10 out of 10 from IGN. It's not gonna be game of the year. Like that only ever happens from studios who have like credibility, I guess, in the industry.
Yeah. No, I get that. And it's different back then too, because it seemed like Xbox and PlayStation, they would have maybe 2 to 3 indie games, Xbox probably a little bit more, that they had back. Because remember, like they had the summer arcade games and everything, and some of like the biggest games came out with that, like Super Meat Boy, Trials. Like it was kind of I want to say that sounds right. Yeah. I don't know if that was definitely a 360 backed game for sure, but
right.
But it just seemed like these weren't coming out like a dime a dozen. So when they did come out, I feel like maybe they were like a little more vetted, and picked handpicked. And I think that did still continue into the PS4. Like the PS4 launch was a little light. So they really backed games like Transistor or The Witness,
I think I'm just a bit more cynical. Like, I feel like it's not that, oh man, we get like they handpicked the best games. It's just like, no, there are just business deals that happen with studios that are of the indie studios, like are already bigger. And,
I guess, but like,
it doesn't feel like there's plenty of games that don't get ported to consoles and stuff that are great that, we've never played.
Yeah, a good example I think off the top of my head is like, which is weird to make a reference to this, but it's Toho Project that has a whole thing where like being ported to the West in the first place and coming to console. Yeah, it's just by I think one guy. What? I'm pretty sure Toho Project has been going on since like 1990, like 5.
Wait, am I mixing that up with something? Is that the
Toho Project is like that bullet hell game you keep seeing. You've probably seen it plenty of times, where it's like those impossible like levels.
Oh, I'm mixing it up with the developers of that free to play game from China.
Well, what is it?
Oh, you're talking about Genshin?
Yeah, Genshin.
Oh yeah.
No.
What is the developer called?
Genshin Impact and MiHoYo, I think.
Toho, right? No, that's the anime.
See?
That's the anime studio.
See what I mean?
Miho.
Yeah, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
But I was talking about Toho.
I want to go back to something Josh said, but I do get what you're saying, but like when they backed like Supergiant Games back when they were doing Bastion, like that was their first game.
Sure. Yeah. But that was like the start of the support for indies. Like I'm saying at this point, you're saying that like it's become like easier less distinguishable between like indie studios and the big publishers and everything. But I don't think that's the case. I think it's just that the ones that got the support have now become like further from their indie counterparts. Like the
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like the other indies, the indies that no one talks about. Like there's so many more of those. Like there's thousands or millions. I have no idea. Like,
I
there's
feel
so
like
many that you're never gonna play.
I feel like
Right.
or what early indie games did is because back in the PS3 360 era, like a lot of our games were just like first person shooters or like very games of its time, playing it very safe. And I think indie games came in and were like, like, hey, y'all like Metroidvanias, no one's
Yeah.
making those, so we will, or like platformers or 8-bit like retro throwbacks that
You want to play soccer
a
with
studio
car?
would never do. Yeah, like a lot of
Exactly.
experimentation and stuff. And I think the difference from back then to now is I think there are more AAA games. Like Japan's more involved in the game industry, the console game industry, than they were during the PS3 and 360 era. So you are seeing a little bit more experimentation on the larger side, where I think early indie games really like distinguish themselves from like what AAA games were offering.
Interesting. Yeah,
Um,
definitely in terms of like genre and things like that. That makes sense.
Yeah, and I do feel like now you are getting kind of, you're getting like these AA studios now that are making like Disney Dreamlight Valley, where, like when 2007, no one would have put millions of dollars into like a farming game.
I think we're getting like the whole free to play garbage.
Yes, yeah. And I do want to the point too, like it was still back then, it was still really cool to not have to pay $60 for a game because there weren't like free to play games.
Right.
And that, so just having like an offering of smaller, like, just on like a budget wise, having
Yeah.
kind of cheaper games to jump in on. And
if you
that
only
would
had
break
the
the bank.
with like 4 gig Xbox or whatever.
Yeah. The arcade, was that the 360 arcade?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. So let us move on. So what I want to do now is I want to make, because there are a good amount of people now that are coming into games that that don't touch indie games, because there are just a lot more options out there now, even in the AAA space, where you can, like you said, you can just play Fortnite. Like we're not looking for games to play in the same way because there's just so many coming out left and right. And now that it's been like what, since 2007 to now, it's almost been, about 15 years since the kind of rise of indie games. It just becomes harder and harder to find like, like, okay, what are like the top 10 or what are like 15 indie games that I might have missed as someone, let's say like Izayah's age. Because it was interesting that Izayah said that like his first time hearing indie games or looking them up was with Undertale.
Yeah, like
Because there was an
2015.
entire generation behind Undertale, like a generation and a half of indie games that, he wouldn't have touched. And to be fair, like a lot of games we're going to put on this list are not just going to be before that time. But, there certainly are games that that aren't talked about or haven't been ported,
Yeah.
So I want to go through, for the people listening, we have this monster list of indie games we made in front of us, and I don't want to just read through lists because that would take a very long time, and we're not
just read it. I could speed read it in probably like a minute.
I can do it
or less. Like it wouldn't take that long.
Yeah. You could, but I want our listeners to be surprised. We will have at the end of this, if there's anything we threw on this list that did not make it into our list, then we will have a shout out. That will happen. So I just want to start out, and each of us are going to pick about 4 indie games, and we're going to talk very briefly about them. But I want we want to make like a site list, whereas if you were just coming in, like maybe you've been gaming even the last 10 years, it's very easy to miss a lot of these games or not, know where to start. So I'd like to make kind of like a site list of, here are like 16 indie games that we know you will have a good time with, kind of picked by us, picked and curated. So Josh, I'd like you to start.
You put me in a really interesting position because I'm very, very, very tempted to play the meta and not pick my favorite game because I know someone else is going to pick it.
I get you. Yep.
So
Yep.
I'm gonna instead pick the first indie game I ever played, and a game that I think is still in my top 3 indie games. It's Castle Crashers.
Castle.
Good game.
Oh,
That's a
nice.
good game.
Nice.
It is one of my favorite multiplayer experiences I've ever had. Like, I just remember playing on the Xbox 360 with my friends after school and like fighting all these wacky cartoon monsters and stuff. And I've always been into like medieval knights and stuff like that. So being able to like, I don't know, just bash things with like swords and hammers and stuff, like the game's amazing. Like, it's so much fun.
So cartoonish.
I mean, it's
and fun.
basically, what would you call it, like a beat 'em up or
Oh, yeah, it's a
brawler?
beat 'em up.
Yeah, it's a beat 'em up
And-
like a Street of Rage.
And what I was saying earlier is like there was an entire generation like beat 'em ups really fell out of favor after like the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis era.
Oh yeah,
which
this
had
was the
hundreds
first
of
one
them.
I ever played. Like, I didn't know what they were.
Yeah.
And I played this and was like, oh, okay, like I can get into this. I mean, I have vague memories of playing like TMNT in the arcade, but yeah, this is the first one I really like sunk some time into. Like, we probably played through this like 3 times, just playing after school for a couple hours here and there. It is so much fun. I mean, it introduced me to a lot of like video gaming ideas that I never really experienced before. I mean, just like being able to play co-op, it really wasn't that common, especially like going into the 360 and PS3 era. Like, there wasn't a ton. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Like, I can't think of a ton of stuff like that really dropped off like after like PS2 and Xbox and all that. So-
It really the beat 'em up genre.
No. Sorry, just like co-op, like couch
Oh
co-op.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was something finally like first like, oh, I have this on my Xbox 360. The game, like the system was basically just for like Oblivion and Halo 3, and then I got Castle Crashers. Like, okay, now I got something. Like, this is great. I was able to actually like share my enjoyment with friends. Obviously, like Halo, whatever, but
Yeah.
this was something like different, something like quirky and fun. Like you said, like indie games have this weird, unique vibe to
Charm.
them. Yeah, the charm that you don't really get out of the AAA polish with, with hundreds of people on the team. You get to see usually 1 or 2 artists like make all of the art for the game. So you get to see like how they have fully realized this world. And yeah, it's like it's 2D, but and some people have a problem with that. It's like, oh, it's a 2D side scroller. Like, I played Mario back in the 80s. Like, I'm good. I don't need that in my life. But like,
With a smaller like a smaller developer team, you see a lot more of that. Like Troy said, a vision is much more realized because everyone has a much better like a I guess like a like-minded mindset, where they're all like, we get it, we know what we want from this, and we're definitely gonna do it. Like like Castle Crashers, like that studio Behemoth, they're great. Like, they get you to make more games after that. Like, was it Bad Buck Theater and what else? Similar
underrated game.
underrated game for sure. But I want to mention that because like they come off from Newgrounds. Well, the platform before YouTube that like reinvented like so many aspiring artists and game developers with Flash and like animations with Flash, that you see that charm, that humor is like encoded into that game with Castle Crashers, and that continues throughout their other games, and it's great. I love it, and I'm sure you do too, Josh.
It's garbage game.
Yeah, and Josh did bring up that point before when we were talking about, but before the podcast, he, I was saying, okay, what's like the first indie games, and we're talking about PC, and I was like, I don't remember there being much of a push on Steam, but he mentioned Flash games. I was like, oh yeah, like that's where a lot of these indie games started, So it's almost like they prototyped their games through Flash and then moved it onto consoles. So that's like a unique thing.
Yeah, the last thing I just want to say about Castle Crashers is that it was like, I've always been into like fantasy and medieval stuff, like I said. It was a way to like experience that in a way that was like made for my age group. It was very silly and cartoony. It wasn't trying to be like self-serious. So it was just a joy. Like
Yeah, and I
top
would
three, top three.
definitely, and you remind me of like a common sentiment I heard back then, especially even people like around my age, which might have even grew up with like a Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo. They were like, they'd see a game to be like, oh, 2D, like that's old, or like it goes left to right, that's old, and they'd write it off. And I feel like we've really broken out of that. Like that's not an issue.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
we did a long time ago. Like I really do feel like indie games specifically really helped, I don't know, break us out of that like genre freeze we seem to be in on the PS3 and 360. As good as some of those games were, like Call of Duties and Skyrim and all that, but for a while it just really felt like, wow, we're just making this again and again and again and again, so yeah, like again, really filling in a gap. All right, Izayah, what are you seeing on this list that jumps out on you? Jumps up. Wait, oh my god, jumps out to you. Thank you.
I think for me, for like I think just a game that really stands out to me, the indie games list, and for you, the listeners who'd be interested in trying out one, I honestly would like to recommend Cave Story. Cave Story actually paved the way for a lot of inspiration for future developers in trying out indie game development. This guy it was only made by one guy, I believe, who did like the entire engine and like art, music in 5 years. And it's a little story with this little robot named Quote that goes on a little like cave journey and like essentially tries to escape, but kind of realizes that like there's a lot more going on in this world, and assumingly there was a war going on. It's weird. It's kind of interesting, but I think the charm that I had with this game was that it was such a small, what felt seemingly small experience that turned out to be quite big. You have like all these like little weapons and stuff. I would almost compare it to like a Metroidvania. You collect like collectibles, upgrade your health, your bullets, yada yada, the gun upgrades, of course. And I don't know. I don't know how to put this into words fully, but the best way I can describe Cave Story is, I don't know, it's like a first journey kind of thing. I don't know. I loved it.
It's interesting too, because I'm pretty sure Cave Story is Japanese developed, right?
Yes, exactly.
And there's not even today, 15 years later, there's not a lot of Japanese indie game developers. That scene is actually like kind of burgeoning.
I did a quick Google search. So this actually was originally published in December of 2004.
2004.
Wow.
Yes.
On PC. Was it a PC game before it was on Wii?
PC.
Yes,
it's still
was.
indie though, bro.
Oh yeah, no, totally.
No, it doesn't count.
Get it out of here.
No, that like Cave Story is considered like one of the first, like one of the really early ones. Yeah,
I just didn't know it was that early. That's crazy.
With its original, with its like we were talking about earlier, how like indie game developers have this push and determination to say like, I want to do or drive. I want to do what I want to do and make games that I like, which is like a Metroidvania was a big thing. Everyone, of course, like loved like the Castlevania Metroid genre of video games and were inspired by it and want to make more of that. And Cave Story obviously takes complete inspiration of that game design and flies.
Is it a Metroidvania? I'm kind of not picturing the gameplay all that well.
It's a side-scrolling Metroidvania.
Okay.
It's pixelated. It's cool.
It's like
really
room
cool.
to room.
It's actually a bit bigger than that. I would say it's room to room, but it is still like quite large with how they do it, with how he does it.
If you're thinking Metroid, then you like Super Metroid, then you're already thinking kind of in the same realm, like those early Castlevanias too.
No, it's sad. I own this game on my Switch, but I never played it.
It's one of the more punishing indie games that I've ever played, especially if you go for like the real true route. I would say Cave Story has one of the most iconic like in-game routes for any video game that I've ever experienced. That it's literally called the song for like that end game. It's called Running Hell. You're quite literally running through hell, and it's amazing how the soundtrack just complements these sceneries and environments. The like kind of like the thematic of like kind of like fear and like cowering to like this one powerful like scientist, and like everyone trying to escape the island, leave, and like just trying to get away, while this like no memory robot is just like, well, I'm here, so I might as well do what I can. And yeah, it's so interesting. The one scene that really sticks out to me is like it's such a popular song. You might know it as like the Moon Song, I believe. Yeah, I think it's called the Moon Song, and it kind of like solidifies this game as like, despite being like cute and like genuinely like approachable on the surface, it has a much more darker element to it that you don't really see with these kind of games back then, at least. And another game like this was like Earthbound for that time, and still, it still stands out to this day to be such an impactful game for developers and storytellers. It's great, and even if it's a punishing game, I recommend it.
Yeah, it's very much like the Super Mario Brothers of indie games. Like it is a really, if I was to put like the beginning of what we know of as indie games, because if you think about it too, like games like on the PS1, like Parappa the Rapper, like we think of that as like a full on PS1 game, but if that would have came out, PS3 onward, that would have been like a $20 neat downloadable game,
Yeah.
But yeah, Cave Story is definitely one of the first I think of. Alrighty, Colton, what's jumping out at you?
I'm having trouble picking the first one I want to talk about.
It is tough.
It is really tough. I was going to pick one that was basically a multiplayer game, but I think Josh already picked one. I think I'm going to go with The Witness. I think The Witness
that's a great one.
Is one of the most unique games I think I've ever played, and there's something about it that there's like a magic to it. And like the first, I don't know if I can. I remember playing it. I remember hearing, oh, this is a puzzle game. I like puzzles. I'm probably gonna like this game. And then you start the game and it's the little, what was it? It was like like an 8x8 kind of grid with, I don't remember if it's 8x8.
It's like just like line puzzles, and you're like, oh,
like
this is cool.
And I was like, oh yeah, this is a cool little tutorial. And I kept expecting it to expand from that, but all it did is just get more and more complicated, but with the same. But like the puzzle never actually changed. The rules changed, and something about that just kept me really engaged. And as embarrassing as it might sound, I never actually beat the game as much as I liked it.
Can't believe you.
I know. I don't remember what it was that distracted me, but I was getting to the point in the game.
You weren't smart enough. I remember. I was there.
It's a game that like really.
So I was trying to do as much as I could without writing all this stuff down. I got to the point where like every puzzle I had, or every puzzle I was doing, probably had like 7 or 8 different of the those symbols in it, and I was starting to forget which one did, and I was like, I don't want to have to go find a piece of paper and do all that. So I think that may have been why I gave it a break, and I was fully expecting myself to go back and try it, and what I really need to do is start it over and actually finish it this time. But I think if anyone's looking to play an indie game just by themselves, like just a really calm night, nothing crazy, but really test your mind, I think that's a good game to start with.
Yeah, it's a game that like really plays with like your expectations, because you're like, oh, cool, like these line puzzles like interact with like environments, which in itself is pretty cool. Like you're like, oh, I solve a puzzle and it changes something in my environment. And then I think the moment it really turns on its head is when you figure out, oh no, you have to use the environment to solve the puzzle. Yeah. And then from there, it's just like really crazy variations on that you just don't see coming, I
could have done without the audio logs, to be honest.
Oh, the like really preachy audio logs.
Like, come on, give me a break, dude.
Yeah. Like
Still fun.
there's just a lot of moments in that game where you just like you go, oh, like, you know, like you've been staring at it and then all of a sudden you get it. But usually
Yeah.
before you have that moment, you're just like, no, that's not what that's, and you do it and you're like, oh my God.
They're like, that can't be that. That's
Yeah.
a reach. And then it ends up being
Yeah. Usually when you're like, oh, that can't be what they're doing. It's what they're doing, which is really cool. I remember
Yeah.
there's like that one puzzle where you're like, there's no clues on how to solve this puzzle, and then you figure out that it's the crunching of the leaves.
Oh
Your
man,
character's like,
dude, I felt like a
Spoilers.
genius when I discovered that. It was.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it sounds really cliche. You know, I felt
we
like
could
a lot of people say about a
spoil
lot of games, but-
3 or 4 different things, and there would still be like 30 other
Oh yeah.
Oh,
types
yeah.
of puzzles.
I'm
It's
joking.
crazy.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and I know it probably. I think everybody has said this about that game, but you know, it really. You know, it respects me. You know, it respects the player. You know, it doesn't give you hint after hint after hint. It's like, no, you know, the game kind of. It's like, I think you're smart
Yeah.
enough to get this. You know, keep trying, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, I like that. I like that about the game.
And it
And
does
once-
all that by just the like design of how the puzzles are laid out, not by like there's not like clues popping up
Yeah.
and like telling you, hey, keep trying. Like maybe if you try this, like no, it's just like you've learned everything you need to know. You can do this.
Yeah. It's just it's a game of like expert design. Like it's just like,
Yeah.
man, immaculate in that way. It's crazy, and it looks really nice. It still looks really nice, like all the art
Yeah.
and stuff. Yeah,
That's why I played
Great
it. It was
game.
the art direction.
yeah. It's a really
I'm shallow
really good looking
like
game. All right, cool. So
Good pick.
my first game, I'm picking Hotline Miami.
That
Yeah.
Bad.
So Hotline Miami, I would say Hotline Miami is the first of an entire publisher's set of games. So this was published by Devolver Digital, and it really set the course of even. I think Hotline Miami has. So just to back up, Hotline Miami is kind of like a puzzle action game where you're given different weapons. You have to like kind of solve rooms where you have to. Usually there's like an objective, and you have to violently kind of figure out how to get to room. It's kind of like a really violent Pac-Man in a weird way, because it's overhead, and you are just like murdering. That's the best way I could explain it. But I think more than its gameplay, which is really good and really solid and fun, I think its aesthetic is really influenced a lot of games, even past indie games, for like years. And not to say that Hotline Miami started an aesthetic, like the really violent like synthwave 80s thing had been, you know, that was the 80s, and there were movies like Drive and stuff that were doing that. But I feel like that really cemented Devolver Digital's kind of like style.
Do you think the pixel art in the game actually like conveys that art though? Like that direction?
Oh yeah. Like I mean, everything on there looks like it's on drugs. Like it has a really wavy like look to it.
I'm looking at stills, I don't think you really get that.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of like video effects going on, and not only that, I think its soundtrack and the writing and stuff is what really sells it. Like there's just it's just a very strange, surreal game. I think anytime you see a Devolver game and you think to yourself, oh, that's a Devolver game. Probably because it has a lot to do aesthetically with Hotline Miami. You know, that really set that style of game. And to this day,
the studio.
oh yeah, let's set the tone for that publisher. And there's been hundreds of games after it that have really kind of gone after it. Like a game recently. What was the one we were just talking about? Josh, the martial arts one that just came out.
Sifu?
Yeah, like games like Sifu, Samurai, the Samurai game, 2D game. I'm so terrible with names.
Katana Zero?
Izayah. Yes, Katana Zero is a direct
It is
sequel
truly
of Hotline Miami. Without
played that
Hotline
one.
Miami, you don't get Katana Zero. Which is also good. I don't think it's as good as Hotline Miami, but it's still good.
It has very
I gotta
interesting
play that
mechanics,
thing because Katana Zero is great.
Oh, dude,
yeah.
Hotline Miami is really great. So yeah, it's just the whole package together. It just made probably a decade of games that really tried to aesthetically kind of match it, and it still kind of stands out on its own after that's been done to death. You know, that 80s synthwave throwback stuff. It still really stands out. The gameplay is brutal. But once you learn it, you kind of, it's like one of those games where once you learn it and you start, it's almost like a Souls game where you start learning how the AI reacts. And once you learn that and how to play it, you start feeling like you're the one messing with the game instead of the game just messing you up.
Oh yeah.
And that's a really good feeling. It's a really good balance. So yeah, Hotline Miami is a must. It was great on the Vita as well, by the way, which is another interesting one to play, but on that handheld. But yeah, Hotline Miami is definitely a big influential pick for me.
Nice.
All right. Thank you. And yes, Josh, I'd be dead curious actually if you've never played that.
Yeah, I've never got around to it.
Oh man, yeah, it's great. All right, so Josh, what are we doing for your second pick?
This is tough, man. It's real tough.
I know what you mean by gaming, because I was like, should I pick something I know someone else is going to
play that
pick?
meta.
I didn't think anyone else was going to pick Hotline Miami, but still.
Man. Oh, God. Crap. I will...
And for the listeners at home, we're looking at this like list of 30 games in front of us.
I'm sorry.
So.
Yeah.
There's something I want to say. I think I'm gonna have to go with the one that I find the most pleasure, like minute to minute playing this game, and that is Towerfall.
That's a great pick.
Thank you. I tried really hard.
Towerfall Ascension?
Sure, yeah. I mean, that's the
game.
Awesome.
Yeah,
game.
it's a multiplayer game. Like Castle Crashers was a multiplayer co-op. Now I got a multiplayer competitive game.
Oh yeah.
Sounds like you like
it is
that have multiplayer in it.
Multiplayer is such a great place for indie games to fit in because there are so few multiplayer games, like local multiplayer. Obviously, you can play, hundreds of games for free multiplayer online, but being able to play on the couch with your friends with a game like Towerfall is just, it's an experience like no other. Like, you need to get a group of friends and sit down and play Towerfall, play Castle Crashers, do it back to back.
Are you trying to get me to buy? Are you trying to get me to buy Ouya? So
I am trying to schedule a sleepover with everyone. And let's just all play just local co-op games.
I don't know if you guys remembered, but that was an Ouya exclusive for a while before.
That's surprising.
Yeah, Towerfall Ascension was its first time coming to console and other places other than the Ouya, but it was an Ouya exclusive for, I want to say, a year or more.
I'm glad it's not anymore.
Yep, no, absolutely. That was the Ouya's killer app was Towerfall.
Wow.
Yep. That is a great game. Yes, I have a lot of good memories.
I just want to throw it out there in case you're curious. I think this game is better than Celeste. I believe it's the same studio.
Yes, it is.
Just throwing it out there, so if anyone puts Celeste on the list, just know you have to challenge me to a duel.
You mean my game of the year?
Yeah.
The year God of War 2018 and Spider-Man
Was
came
that
out?
your game
That's
of the year?
Celeste. That's Celeste.
Is that really?
That was absolutely.
Dude,
You're gonna have to fight me.
Interesting.
Spoilers for later down the list.
Hey Josh, would you like to explain to the listeners what kind of game can they expect from Towerfall Ascension?
A multiplayer competitive game that you have fun with your. Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's like if you took Smash Brothers pixelated it, and everybody only had bows and arrows.
Yes,
Love
and
it.
a boost.
Sure, and you boost like Celeste.
Yeah, I love how simple it is. But it's one of those games like easy to pick up, hard to master sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's like playing bass, Towerfall.
Like my mom would be able to play it. She wouldn't just be standing there. She'd at least be able to know how to shoot and move. Like it's
Right.
not too complicated. If you played like Mario, it's just like jump and then like one other input.
Yeah, the genius thing about Towerfall is the ability to catch the arrows. That's
Yes.
where
Yeah.
there's never
That's
a
the
time where that doesn't feel
technicality.
great.
Yes. So besides just like
I played that game. Talking about this one.
Oh yeah, the Switch
that
version, by
reminds
the
me.
way, exclusively expanded it to 6 players instead of 4. So the Switch is the best way to play Towerfall.
Yeah, and I think what's really cool about that game is that you can play with your friends, of course, on couch play multiplayer, and if you Switch, you have a 6-player multiplayer. What makes it really cool though is that the campaign can also be experienced in couch play as well. You have 2 people, and you go through basically rounds or just waves of enemies through like rounds. Each level you go up, they get more and more difficult with the enemy variety types and also like more rounds. So it becomes more not only like a physical but a mental battle with you and your buddy. Me and Colton have played it before.
Yeah, the
couch
single player
multiplayer
the player versus computer modes are actually surprisingly really fun. I played a lot of those even by myself, which I can't say for a lot of those like competitive multiplayer games, because usually you just get thrown in like a bot match or something, and you're like, this isn't it.
Great game, and also great.
Yeah, that is a great pick. All right,
I feel so good about it now. Thank you guys.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Josh, you're so cool.
Every time I see a game,
Oh
I'm just
gosh.
like, man, that's another game I don't have to worry about putting on in front of other ones. All right, Izayah, let's hear about your number 2.
All right, I gotta pull it out. I'm ready.
What?
It's Undertale, baby.
Man, I was thinking about sneaking to the restroom while you were picking, but you said Undertale. I'm like, oh no, now I have to stay.
You have to be here.
Otherwise, you're gonna
Sorry.
talk.
All right,
Okay.
so let's
Go
out the
for
gate.
it, Izayah.
Undertale gives you that nice experience, a nice like a balanced experience of story and also like engaging gameplay. Story goes as simple: you're a human who fell in Mount Ebot, and we don't know your intentions, but you survived the fall, and now you must traverse through the entire underground and befriend or kill monsters throughout the entire experience. And it's a charming, fun, and honestly great experience for a video game. Any developer, Toby Fox, composed and developed the entire game with art by Timmy Chang and additional help. What makes it really stand out between like all the AAA games and also some indie games is that you have the ability to spare. You always had like that fun feeling in God of War where you're just slaying your enemies, ripping them to shreds. But in Undertale, you have the choice to just, like, what if I just want to be friends with the slime monster and just say, you do a little like wiggle, and they're friends, and now you get to spare them. They get to go on their better life, and
But my
you get to do their
numbers don't
journey.
go up. How am I going to
Exactly.
level up?
True. Very
No,
unrealistic.
despite this being like RPG as well, you have the sacrifice of wanting to be good with good karma, but you don't level up for it if you go on for like the more killing route, and you slay these monsters mercilessly. You do get that like boost in experience. But what makes it even more fun, besides this choice of sparing and fighting, you have this awesome blend of bullet hell like pattern gain. Like, despite like just like talking to them, you get to experience like just dodging their attacks with your own little heart. And it gets really creative sometimes. There's this one monster that I love. He's a plane. He's a literal plane. And you see like on your left and your right, like all these like planes coming by, and like they drop down bombs. Sometimes there's like a monster who's like a vegetable, like a carrot. And he's like, eat your veggies. And like when he throws out carrots at you, someone will be green. If you touch it, you'll be healed, and you get closer to sparing the monster. There's a lot of interactivity with this game and its combat that it makes it so much fun and refreshing. And each monster is a joy to like to play with. But not only that, you have one of the best like composed soundtracks of all of gaming. Of course, composed by Toby Fox himself.
Oh yes, if Toby Fox wasn't making games, he could just compose music and be one of the best, like one of the all-time greats.
Yes, and I want to compare.
Man can make chiptune music like no one else. It's crazy.
And to give you like a sense of like sort of like I guess like I don't know development that Toby Fox has come so far. We all know what Pokemon is, right? He got to write an entire song.
That's that Digimon ripoff, right?
He got to write an entire song for Pokemon Sword and Shield. That was by that indie developer from 2015 all the way into this like was a AAA project video game that is for one of the known to be like the biggest like franchises in the world.
Well, what I'll say about Undertale for sure is a lot of games, especially with the writing, because the writing's a big standout.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of games that try to do kind of like really like kitschy like humor, like they try to do that kind of like Gen Z, like I'm cool kid too kind of writing, and for some reason Undertale does it, and it's not cringy. It's actually like funny and well done, and that's like a really hard line to balance.
Right.
Not going too far into like I'm just rolling my eyes at all this, versus like versus just being like super serious or whatever. But all of his writing is really good. It still stands up. Like and Undertale is one of those games too it's just been super influential since it came out. Like instead of people saying, "Oh, this game reminds me of Earthbound." Now we look at a game that comes out and be like Omori and be like, oh man, that someone definitely played Undertale,
Yeah, for sure.
It's just one of those games that I think in 20 years, people will still be making games and people will be like, oh wow, I'm seeing some Undertale influences, and they'll be like, absolutely, yes. So yeah, Undertale is a must. I agree. I think the bullet hell stuff is a little underrated too.
Oh, absolutely.
All like the fourth wall breaking and the creative ways you spare monsters through like dialogue, kind of like a Shimigami Tensei.
Yeah.
Like you kind of figure out what the monsters and what they want, and you get dialogue choices. And sometimes what you do in the bullet hell sections affects, how they react to you and stuff. And that stuff it's surprisingly well done too. And it's difficult actually. Those bullet hell sections, it's not like an easy game either. But just like the different genre blends in there, like sometimes if there's a lot you can miss in Undertale too. Like if you don't go into a certain room and talk to someone, you miss an entire like dating sim section.
Yes.
There's so many variables, whether you kill monsters or don't can totally change your interactions later on or content. So it's very replayable. It's very charming. The music's amazing. It's just Undertale is an amazing game, and if you can put aside some of I think the fandom and stuff is colored Undertale sometimes not in the best light. I think it's cool that people are into it, and it's one of those games that have so many cool characters that they can expand on it, the community and stuff. But besides all that, you've heard so much about it. I can tell you, I think the beginning's a little slow. But give it a chance, and it is just an amazing game. I haven't, and I noticed you didn't put Deltarune on here, or maybe you did. But I haven't been as high on Deltarune as I was Undertale, because I think he had so many ideas and he put so much into Undertale that it's going to be a lot of work to outdo that. And I think Deltarune, maybe when it comes out, because it's episodic, he might get there. But yes, if you've not played Undertale, it is definitely belongs on this list as an absolute, like, you need to play this game. It's
Yeah.
good.
Okay, I'll
And-
try it eventually.
And despite
God.
You
And
were worried
despite-
about Izayah going on and on about it. Jeez.
I looked
Undertale
like
is amazing.
yeah, but I want to talk about the accessibility options. Undertale is
Oh my
available on
God.
all platforms and Game Pass, so you really can just
Is
pick
it
up
still
this
on
game.
Game Pass?
It's
Is it
still on Game Pass.
accessibility? Is that what we're defining as accessibility?
Well, it's
Availability.
Availability.
Yeah.
Yes,
There you go.
that's the better word. And yeah, it's still like one of my favorite games to this.
Cool.
It's one of my top 5 favorite games, dude. To this day, it's awesome.
Yeah. No, it's. I keep doing that. I keep highlighting and making the wrong color. All right, continue. Yes, Undertale is a must play. Absolutely. Colton,
yeah.
what's on your mind? What are you looking at here? I'm curious.
Well, I'm thinking of probably. Well, no, I can't say the biggest indie game success story because I think that belongs to another one. But definitely one of the biggest is probably going to be Rocket League.
Yeah.
That is.
Sport
I'm
game.
so glad you put that in here.
Yeah,
so
that-
glad. I was so
that
torn.
is that is one of the like. I mean, if you went back like 15 years and told me, and gave me a breakdown of what this game was, I would not believe how big that game would be eventually. Like it just saying it out loud. Like I had to describe that game to my mom one time, and she was very confused, and she didn't believe me when I said it was really good and it's actually very popular. And it's just there's something about it. I'm not a huge sports game fan, but I can't say I don't like sports games because I love Rocket League. And there was a time where I've probably put maybe 150 hours in the game. I was playing it every day for a while, and it's just one of those games that I feel like is always going to be near and dear to my heart, even though I never got like crazy good at it like you, Troy. But that never took away the enjoyment.
Can I just put in that this is probably my most played game of all time? I've easily put over 1,000. I've put over 1,000 hours in Rocket
Fantasy
League.
14 will probably be your next.
Yeah, actually, yes, but it's still not. It's still not. It may eclipse it one day, but it's still not there. Well, you said something interesting, Colton, about being a sports game and how you're usually not into sports games. I think what I like about Rocket League is it makes me feel like I'm playing a sport more than any sports game I've played.
It's not a sports simulation. You are actually
like you need
right.
to worry about positioning, like who's defending, who's passing, who's attacking, who's you're thinking kind of in the same ways you would while playing like soccer, where it's less about the action you're doing, which is important, obviously, like athleticism, all that, but it's a lot about positioning, and that's what sports is. It's like smart positioning,
I think that's because you are an individual on a team instead of the entire team in most sports.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And
but
yes,
I really think they missed it on the name. It should have been called Supersonic Acrobatic Rocket Power Battle 2. It's way more descriptive.
Hey, let me tell you,
that
was an early PlayStation Plus game on PS3, and that's how I got into that. And yes, me, my brother, and a few other people, we tried it, and we're like, oh my gosh, what is this game? It's good. And that game, no one knew about that game until it came to PlayStation Plus.
Oh yeah, I mean,
like if you look at reviews,
there were some fights that got started over at Josh's house.
Yeah,
we all wanted to play at the same time, and people weren't taking turns. Like we all wanted to play that game. Like,
you know what? They were onto something. They just came too early on the PlayStation 3.
A tad bit.
PlayStation 3 wasn't the place you went to go look for like cool downloadable games before 2009. This was while the PlayStation 3 was way too expensive. This was before the Slim. Like it kind of just was left to die. And I'm glad that they
Slim? No, it wasn't, because I had it and I had a Slim. That was my first PS3.
Right, but did you get it at launch?
Yeah. No, well, wait. Did it launch before it launched on PlayStation Plus?
Oh yeah. Oh
really?
PlayStation Plus is where I think I would imagine they realized actually we still have something here because there's people playing this and like are getting into it.
Okay.
Yeah, you can fact
Oh,
check me on
I
that.
believe you. But
I want to say that's true, but it wasn't a day one plus game. I don't think day one plus games were even a thing till much later. But yes, yeah, you could definitely see that maybe it getting on plus and getting traction. I'm glad that they gave it another shot with Rocket League, and that I knew it was going to hit like bigger than it did with Supersonic, but like
knew.
Colton, you said, I never knew it was just going to be one of the big ones, you know?
October 2008.
October 2008, right? And I think PlayStation Plus was like in 2009-ish or something.
I'm looking up Slim release date.
Yeah, that was 2009 because that would have been around
September
Uncharted
1st,
2.
2009.
Yep.
Okay, you're right.
So yes, that's a good pick, Colton. Where is Rocket League? All right. All right, it's my turn. I should have been thinking about this.
It's hard. You get to-
It is,
I just noticed we have Undertale twice on here.
Oh,
Yeah.
do we?
Yeah, I was like, wait, did I move that down? Oh, okay. Now that we have Rocket League. Oh, okay. So Rocket League was going to be my next choice. So you kind of all freed me up at the same time. You put me in a spot where I'm like, oh no, I need to scramble. Okay,
Big dash pocket.
I'm gonna be the one. I'm gonna be the one to do it. I'm gonna put Hollow Knight on here.
Yeah.
Yay!
Let's go.
Yes. So Hollow Knight
I haven't played it.
is the perfect mix of like a Metroidvania and a Dark Souls game with all the pros of both. And it's one of the few games. So it is a 2D like Metroidvania action adventure game. But where it really becomes special is, yes, it controls amazingly. It's really fun to play. It's really tight. And a lot of like Castlevania Metroid games are. That's why they're fun. But I think
they drip feed you that like progression though. Like you start out like real,
Yes.
like, oh, this is clunky, but then you're like, oh, ooh, hey, like whoa.
Right. And that's yes, and that's absolutely what a good Metroid game should do. Is you should feel like a god just ripping through the levels, by the end of it, which you do get that. But I think what really makes Hollow Knight stand out is something that makes like, I think From Software is the master of this, and there's very few games that have done it, but it's just the vibes. That's all I can say is like, I think it has to do with the art. It has to do with the music, like the like piano composition and the sound effects. Like I think the sound
audio
cues and
stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh, and it's so instantly like iconic sounding.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could play me a track from Hollow Knight. I'm like, that's from Hollow Knight. Like that sounds, yes, all the sound effects. And even the boss design, I think that's where you get into really big Soul territory too. They're all so memorable and well designed and tight in a way where I felt like some bosses, I think it is easier than a From Software game, but there are a lot of fights where you feel like you're getting out by the skin of your teeth, and that's always a great feeling, where you're like one or two hits away from dying and you just nail it, and you're like, oh my, get it, nail. And then you're just like, okay, that's a good feeling. The dopamine rushes came in, but yeah, it just really nails something that other games tried to do. Like a lot of other games have tried to make like Souls like combat and like mechanics, and a lot of them are pretty good. Like Neo's really good. There are games that do that stuff, but to get like that like oppressive like vibe and the way the story is told through just like either visually or kind of like a wink and a nod, it's Man, that game is so good.
Right. I think what you're saying is like the best Souls clones are the ones that can masterfully craft the world and not necessarily copy the mechanics of a Dark Souls game.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And I think that's the harder. I mean, getting the gameplay is hard. Like, there are games that don't get it right. Like I like Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, but it never will feel as good as like a Souls game.
That has neither the combat or the world. It's just whatever.
Yeah, I like that game. But it's just there's something off. But getting the I'm missing the word for it, but like I said, just the world design and everything is just incredible. So yes, Hollow Knight is a all-time great. It's a newer all-time great,
It's my number one indie.
It's probably one of my number ones tier 2.
Yeah,
like I could not see
how that works.
Well, you look. That's my. I like to party.
It's one of my number ones.
Only I party.
No.
I have a number 1.
Great reference, Troy. God dang.
Thank you. But yes, no, it would be in my top 3, if not number 1 as well, Josh.
Okay.
So
Good.
yes.
I've been
Didn't you hate it at first?
Yeah, okay, yes. So I didn't get it. The first 2 hours, like you said, the progression of like the power progression, I was just like, this doesn't feel very good. Your jumps kind of meh. Your attack like range doesn't feel good, and I was lost for a little bit. And then once you hit like that magic like 2 or 3 hour point, everything from there, I'm like, oh my God, is this one of the best games ever made? And then by the end, I can be like, wow, that's one of the best games ever made.
Yeah, I like to add on to this real quick and say, I mentioned Kay's story for like being that Metroidvania game that is still, to this day, very punishing. And I still recommend to you new players, for anyone who wants to try it. But I think what really sold me on Metroid, like specifically for its game design and falling in love with that, was Hollow Knight's like just romantic like feeling of getting lost. I was so scared of going out of my bounds, of staying in my map and just like getting all the collectibles there and just continuing on. But when you let yourself go and you go far out in the world of Hollow Knight, you can discover so much amazing stuff that makes that first time experience of playing it so much more like awesome. And it made me fall in love with what Metroid first started, and what Hollow Knight does with it is chef's kiss beautiful, and it makes me and probably maybe you go back to like these Metroid games and see what the inspiration was drawn from, and feel that power of like progression, that power of like just like adventuring, and that right there should sell you. And it sold me for 70 hours before even beating the game. I got 100% of that base game and still played it. I love Hollow Knight. We all do, and you should play it.
Yeah, the ambience of that game is bar none. Yes, like I said, the only other comparison I would have is like From Software's games, and that is like one of the highest bars for that specifically. And like I said, it just gets everything right. Just does everything perfect. The only thing, like I said, is you just need to encourage someone, like get through the first 2 or 3 hours, like fight through it. Yeah, it'll be worth it, and it is. And yes, amazing.
Yes. 3 people made that game. 3 people. It's amazing.
That's probably why we're waiting like years for the sequel.
Silk Song. Yep.
Yes. All right. Josh.
Oh,
we got for you number 3.
Oh no.
I know.
Yeah, it is back to me, isn't it?
I kind of copped out and went to Hollow Knight.
Dang. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Next one.
Yeah, fill the air. Let me think real quick.
I need to try Hollow Knight. Is that a game?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. It's on Game Pass. So.
Oh dang!
Is it really?
Oh. I got it from Plus a while ago too.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And you haven't played it yet.
I know.
It'll be kind of funny. What if like a Shadow of the Colossus was an indie game?
It would have, but that's the thing. Shadow of the
I
Colossus could be one of those AA. Could have been like one of those AA games for sure.
I just thought about a game that I've never thought about as an indie game, but I don't know if it is or not.
What is it?
Throw it out there. Throw it out there while Josh is.
Is No
Yeah,
Man's
dude,
Sky an indie game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would.
Wait. But
Well-
did PlayStation help fund that originally?
They did, but it doesn't mean it's not
Just curious.
like an independent game. I would say it is. They went from Joe Danger and Joe Danger 2 to No Man's Sky. Like that ramp. And
I was good. Beautiful Joe and Joe Danger mixed up.
Beautiful Joe.
Beautiful Joe. Yeah. Again, I could see Beautiful Joe being like, like a beat 'em up in an era, in an era now. Beautiful Joe would be like a downloadable for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, I have to be honest with myself, I guess.
Oh man.
The best game that's still left on the list for me, and it's gonna sound so freaking typical, is Hades.
Nice.
A roguelike.
Everyone loves Hades. You probably heard about it. It's whatever.
It's not my favorite game from that studio.
I'm not unique. I'm not special.
I love, but yes. No, Hades belongs there. No,
I'm gonna do a quick shout out to Pyre. I didn't play enough of it. I need to get back to it.
Good.
I enjoyed what I played of it, and I really need to finish that. Transistor didn't grab me. Bastion was good, but I like Hades a lot more than Bastion.
Yeah,
I don't like roguelikes or roguelites. Either one. I don't care.
Normally, I'm with you. Yes.
It's bad game design. It's lazy game design. I haven't seen, other than like 3 games, I haven't seen anybody do it well.
I wouldn't say it's lazy.
No, it's lazy.
It's really hard to get right.
Yeah.
No, okay. It's lazy. It's a lazy idea. If you can do it right, then you are a very good game designer.
Sure. Yes.
The idea is lazy because a lot of developers do it because they don't have enough content. They're not capable of putting in enough content to keep players engaged. So they go, I'm going to make a roguelite. Hades, however, they figured out, they built on top of that idea with the content necessary to keep players around. They didn't rely on it being a roguelite to keep people playing. They built the story around it being a roguelike, which is very interesting and much more difficult to do than just like a lot of roguelikes where it's like you are literally doing the same thing over and over and over again and not getting anything out of it. Whereas this it will allow you to interact with the very well-written characters and likable characters in Hades. All the pantheon of gods and everything. You've heard it a dozen times, I'm sure. Everyone knows about Hades. It is
that soundtrack rips, by the way. All of Darren Korb's soundtracks, just rip.
Amazing.
It's just undeniably one of the best, like, well-rounded indie games made. Again, I don't like that it's a roguelike. If it wasn't, I would enjoy it more. If it was like a more traditional, old school, like Diablo, I think I would enjoy it. But if you like Diablo and you're interested in roguelikes, I mean, this is perfect. Like that's like the perfect meeting of two, game design ideas. But I still don't like that it's a roguelike.
And what I love about Supergiant in general, and they do this with Hades too, is they always put a narrative, like a narrative spin you don't expect on a genre you don't expect, and somehow it sounds crazy, but it works every time, and I don't understand how they do it so well. It's so effortlessly. Like you're never like, this is a bit clunky. You're just like, oh my God, this is like, why hasn't anyone ever thought of this? Like this is, or no one else would think of this. It's so, all their games are so creative and so layered. Like their narrative design is very layered. Like it's not just like you talk to characters and that's where you get your story. Like usually it's layered within the mechanics. And it just like in such a, like I said, effortless way. And that's just kind of their MO. And it's Supergiant.
Yeah, they deserve all the praise they get. Like fantastic game studio.
The thing is, I could put maybe except for Bastion, because I think that was mechanically, that's kind of a simpler game. It being their first, I can, it's still cool what they did, but every game after that for me could just easily be on this list.
You don't think Bastion could be on the list?
I think Bastion could be on the list, maybe not above a lot of these other games, but
okay,
but everything else, like
shout out
Transistor, Pyre, Hades,
I
all
always
that.
mention Bastion. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And the narrator for Bastion's amazing as well. The voice acting has always been top notch in these games.
I'm just off the record. I'm gonna recommend, just if you haven't played Supergiant's games, just play all of them. They're
honestly, yes. I have a Transistor shirt that I've had for 4 years, since before Hades. Like ever since Transistor onward, I've been like, man, Supergiant has something special going on.
Yeah.
And it's so rare to have a team stick together this long through this many games, and they just seem to get better at it.
Yeah. It's crazy, but it's
the artist, the composer, the director.
Inspiring.
Yeah. If you want to see the director of Supergiant, their like design, he was a GameSpot editor for years, like old school. So if you look up like Final Fantasy X review on GameSpot, that is the head of the studio.
To clarify what I said, I said that Transistor didn't grab me. I enjoyed what I played of it. I didn't go back to it. And it's not because the game wasn't good. It was because I guess the time I was playing, I just didn't get, the hooks didn't sink in soon enough for me to feel the need to go back. But I definitely want to go back. It's just, that back catalog of games.
I get it. You should. But yeah, Transistor is, I think art design wise, I think Transistor is my favorite. It has
really
such a good look. Oh, it's so pretty.
I think I like Hades a little bit more, but I get where you're coming from.
Over time, honestly, Pyre just keeps growing and growing for me, because Pyre is so, again, the way we use its story with the sports game, and it gets oddly really crazy and epic at the end. Like,
it sounds so good.
Yeah, out of all of their games, that'd be the first one I would try. Pyre.
Yeah, Pyre is amazing. All right, cool. I am glad. I'm not surprised, but I am glad Hades Supergiant's on this
boring
list.
Choice.
Hey, I'm with you. I'm not big on roguelikes. So when a roguelike hits, it has to be really good. And Hades
it disappoints me that I had to be the one to mention it.
Our first roguelike.
Oh man. All right, Izayah. What are we doing next? This is your third.
Guys,
so you got,
it just fell into my palm of my hands from the heavens himself. I just thought of this game and remembered my absolute time with it. It is A Hat in Time by Gears for Breakfast.
Nice.
A Hat in Time was my first ever like PS4 games I bought alongside Undertale, and it's a game that I spent like 60 hours playing. It's a collectathon, like 3D platforming game that you probably feel more interested towards Super Mario Sunshine or Super Mario Galaxy. Those Super Mario games that you love. Banjo-Kazooie, yes. Those games that you loved playing growing up, God bless. A Hat in Time will give you that same like childhood like wonder that you have with those games. It's cute, it's charming, it stands out, and it had a fun little story with an alien hat kid in space trying to go back to home, but then like, someone like, hey, you need to pay the tax to like park here with your spaceship, and punches the window, and now you're stranded here with all your little time pieces scattered across like these worlds, and you gotta go find them all. The whole point of it is just is a collectathon, like on Super Mario games. You collect the shines, the sprites, and you die. Same thing here. It has so many fun, just traversal in these worlds. They're so dense and compact, and the writing is goofy and like fun. It's a perfect game for your kid and for you as an adult. Any person can pick up this game and be like, this is fun. I love this. And there's like even this one level. I can't go too much into it, but I will say during close to end game, you find a big level that's just complete endless. It has all these islands connecting, and you can like zip line to them. You can do all these like fun little was like a boost in the air. You do like a dive like in Mario Odyssey. You can do all this fun stuff, double jump, everything. It's a platformer. It's a 3D platformer, cute, fun. It's simple in design, but like even more fun to explore and get your hands on. I wholeheartedly recommend it. It delivers on all fronts, and if you're a completionist like I am, you're gonna love just finding all these like collectibles and the characters. I should mention this: the characters are awesome. You probably know this one character named the Snatcher. He is iconic. His like delivery with the voice actor is just chef's kiss again.
Was this Izayah, was this a Kickstarter game? Oh, was it? Yeah, okay. This was like one of the early Kickstarter games I remember seeing and being like, "Oh wow, that's really cool."
Yeah, and to this day, I think they might have just released their last bit of DLC, but they have DLC. If you like this game, you like what it shows.
They're still releasing stuff for A Hat in Time.
I'm pretty sure they had like a recent
crazy.
DLC from like I think like a year ago.
Dude, I remember seeing this game in like
2014, right?
2014. Wow. Yeah. Okay, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Wait, it came out in 2014, or
I'm thinking like it was around the time when the Kickstarter came out.
Oh, okay, that sounds right. I was gonna say, wow, yeah, because I remember seeing this game like long before that. But all right, is there any last things you want to say about Hat in Time?
I can't really say a lot because beside like these like surface level like opinions, because when you get your hands on it, you find out there's a lot more to it. You can customize the hat kit. You can get these pins that give you more like abilities. Like I mentioned earlier, there's a zip line, but you can also do like a scooter. Oh, hats! That's right, the hats. I'm so sorry. The hat's the core mechanic in the game because you're Hat Kid, a hat in time, and you have different abilities going through like objects. You have like freezing. You have like bombs to throw. You can go really fast. Like there's a lot you can play around this game, and it constantly juggles these mechanics with you, and you never grow tired of them. You never feel like they're ones not being used much. You of course have a favorite. Mine's like the Speedy Hat, but you're constantly like on the move, on the go, and having fun, and the humor's there.
Yeah, it's really hard I feel like it's really hard to nail a 3D platformer, even more than like a 2D.
Mm-hmm, right.
One, just getting like the feel and the physics and the weight of it right. So when a game does it, I always appreciate that. I'm like, okay, good job.
Josh, have you played this game?
No, it's one that's been on my wish list for so long, but it's one of those games that's
seems like
just the right
game.
Price point where I'm like, I don't want to spend like $30. That's terrible, but
It is what it is.
I like sales. All
right, Colton, what's your third?
I think so. When I think of indie game, what I know it's not the most accurate thing to say, but I guess when I think of a AAA game, when I think of a game that's $60, I don't think of a game that I can beat in an hour and a half, you know? Sure. Not that every indie game you can do that either. Most of them, I feel like nowadays, you can't do that. I feel like they're kind of getting longer and longer.
Some of them like endless, but yes.
Yeah. But this game in particular is by far the shortest game on this list that we have curated so far. And it's Donut County.
Yeah.
And that is just one of the most simple. What thing?
I thought you were going to go with something else there when you were building it up, but I'm glad to see Donut County.
Yeah, I mean, there's just something, Donut County came out and it just...
nothing else mattered.
And nothing, I mean, really, for that whole afternoon, nothing else mattered.
I remember I remember bringing you and Victoria into my room. I'm like, I have Donut County.
Yes, and oh man, I had to buy it that day. I just, it's so simple, it's so short, but I think it's very clever. The gameplay sounds super simple when you mention it, and the writing is really funny, and it's also like the perfect family game. You could if you have a kid, I've heard stories of people their kid may be just too young to be able to play the game effectively, but they would sit there and watch their parent play it all day and just laugh and laugh. I think it's the perfect like if you wanted to know what an indie game was, I think one of the first ones I would show somebody. And I think it'd be the perfect game to kind of start somebody out on.
It's such a chill out game, and it's pleasant to like listen to and look at. And Donut County's great.
I kind of give a quick shout out to the guy who made the soundtrack, Daniel Kostner. You can find his album for Donut County on Spotify. He's made a fan album of that soundtrack himself. Like he's actually made like a sequel album, and it's great. You guys should totally check it out. And the game itself is like 3 hours long.
It's
totally
weird because it's apart from the game. He made a sequel album of the music of Donut County. He made like a sophomore album without a sequel, and so that's just a weird, cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yes. Yeah. Donut County's great. Every platform it comes out on, I beat it on. The minute it came to Xbox, I was like, yep. The minute it came to Switch, I was like, so yes, Donut County. Okay. So where I thought you were going for a second there, Colton, is my next game is going to be Journey.
Yeah, me too. I think that too.
Yeah. Journey, I want to say, is probably I think of Journey as maybe the turnaround of Sony actually like getting into the indie game like for real in the same way Xbox was. Because for a while you thought of like, okay, Super Meat Boy, like Limbo, not Bastion. Oh yeah, Bastion, all that stuff. Braid. And that was all Xbox. Like Trials. They were like hitting it out of the park, and Sony had like some cool stuff, but it wasn't hitting in the same way. And I think Journey was the first one. Was like, oh, this is not just like an indie game. This is like a Game of the Year contender. And what Journey does, that was really inventive at the time, was it's like it's a really cool game about like a journey. You're just like these little cloth person that goes across the desert, and all the game directs you to do is just to go forward. And it kind of gives you like a lot of cool visual cues. And there's only like one button to interact and one button to jump. But what's cool and what you don't want to get spoiled for you if you don't get this spoiled. So if you haven't played Journey, just skip over the next, 5 minutes or so, at least up for next like 30 seconds.
I'll just take my headset off.
Have you never played Journey?
No.
Do you know do you know the thing that makes Journey special?
Oh yeah, you good.
Okay, you know what happens.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just think, oh, okay, this is like a really pretty game, exploration game, and all of a sudden in the distance you'll just see like another character moving around. And you'll be like, oh, is that like an NPC? What is that? And then soon it becomes clear that it's another player. And what Journey does is it'll like kind of combine your sessions with other players playing the game. And if you get too far away from each other, you kind of go into your own session and then you run into someone else. Or, it just depends who you play with. A lot of times when I do my play sessions, I end up playing with the same person like through the entire rest of the game. And it's just really like the soundtrack is amazing. I think it won like a Grammy the year it came out.
Deserved.
All the art and the sound, and it's just really a master stroke. And just you going on a journey with somebody else and you getting like oddly attached to someone like you've never met, and all you can do is kind of like chirp at each other. By the end of the game, you really feel like you went through like an adventure with somebody, like you went through like, meeting them, like trials, and later, again, spoilers, death, and then like rebirth. And it feels like you're almost doing like life with somebody in like this 2-hour span. And the special thing about Journey, I think it's the game I like to watch people play more than even play it. And because it's so short, it's a great game for people that don't normally play games to play. You know, it's 2 buttons. And so I recently watched Sam play through it, my fiance, and this is the first game she's ever beat was Journey.
Oh, really?
She's played a good amount of games, but she's never beat them. But I watched her play from start to end. And I saw her. She had no idea that there was going to be another player, and all of a sudden someone came chirping by, and she's like, "Is that who's that?" And slowly she did figure out. She's like, "That's another person," and it was really cool to watch because I don't know if this person has played before or what, but they went through the entire game together.
Oh, wow!
From like start to end. And this was like a few months ago, so like, you know, there's still people playing, and you still get that magic, and there's just like a lot of really good moments. I think that moment of sliding down the hill, that level, with kind of that, like, that's the first time like the music really kicks in. I think per level they add another instrument, and that's where they really get, like, it's not just like a cello. It's like where they get like a viola or like another like higher kind of jauntier instrument in. And the way that like the sand sparkles, everything about that level is just like iconic. Yeah, and you'll see a lot of references to it in other games and stuff. So yeah, Journey's a really important indie game to have on this list.
I'm looking at gameplay right now. It just makes me want to play it for like the 5th time.
Yeah. It's always fun to have your friends around during when you play another session of that game. I mean, Colton, I think you and I both remember like having our friends over at your own little shack, and we played the game all the way through that entire night, and it shows just the importance of this game, not just like I guess memory and like design wise, but actually the key thing is the design, which is like that multiplayer like aspect to this game, which makes it stands out so much that I think a lot of developers looked at this game and was like, holy crap, that's really cool. Can we do something like that? Like, you know, it's a revolution. And
you know, and it sounds so dumb to say this, and I'm going to feel dumb saying it, but I feel like Journey is like less of a game to me and more of like an experience. Yeah. Like when people say like games are like interactive experiences, like I just, a different part of my brain plays Journey. It's kind of, Journey is more like listening to like an album to me, like a music album, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that.
It's just it's almost like an interactive art piece that you get to experience with either people in the same room or like online, and I think that was like very intentioned. So yeah, just a
very magical game.
Yeah. It's kind of like I don't know if there's ever going to be another game like Journey that can do the same tricks. And it's not even like its online thing was like the craziest thing. I mean, for a lot of people, like that going in and out without actually like going to a lobby or saying accept. Like, I think before that, like Demon Souls and Dark Souls had come out. And that was, you know, that's where that concept first came to me. Like someone invading your game. Like that concept is very cool. But for most people, that was their first time ever like dealing with something like that. And I think that's still a cool concept to this day. I'm surprised more games haven't done. But yeah, Journey. All right. So are we on our last? This is our last pick, so make it count. Izayah.
Gosh.
That's Josh.
Make me nervous.
Oh, sorry. Josh. No, Josh doesn't get a last pick.
I have been thinking about it this whole time. Finally, I took the time to actually think about this one.
I'm proud of you.
I had to dig real deep to really figure out which game
Big Doug
meant the most to me, or that I think deserves my final pick. And that game is Minecraft.
Yeah, I knew it was
gonna be my next one. Dang it.
I couldn't let it slip by. I didn't know for sure because if I didn't pick it, I was like, it's not gonna feel right. And I'm usually not the biggest supporter of Minecraft. Why are you making me yellow, dude? Get out of here. I usually complain about Minecraft. I hardly ever want to play it. When my kids play it, I'm like, ugh. They ask me to play with them. I'm like, no, get out of here. Never.
I want to play Fortnite.
I have so many fond memories of Minecraft.
Yeah.
It will always be one of the greatest indie games. It changed the
It's so
world
weird
in the
thinking of it
stupidest
as
way.
indie.
It's crazy.
I think it's so many people's like Gen Z's like first game. Like it's so many people's like it's such a seminal game to so many people that like it's almost legendary and kind of it's in its own league in a way.
I mean, like all of my cousins, I mean, that are all right now, they're all under the age of like 14, you know? Like that's the first game I've seen like any of them play. Like since they were like all 6 years old, they've been playing Minecraft nonstop.
Yeah, and it's like the game for like non-gamers to play. Like if you have someone who plays Minecraft, it's a good there's a chance they just play Minecraft. They don't find a need to play any other game but Minecraft, and that speaks volumes.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, dude. My kids have Minecraft toys and shirts and toothbrushes. It's insane.
Lucky.
Yeah, Minecraft to me isn't just like it goes beyond being a game. It's like its own platform. It's like
Yes.
It's like you have the PlayStation, you have even though Xbox owns them, you have an Xbox, you have a Switch, and you have Minecraft. Like it's almost its own game, kind of in the same way Roblox is too, you know.
Yeah.
But it's kind of just its own
one,
thing. Yes, it's an awful company. Don't buy Roblox. Don't let your kids play Roblox. That's all I'll say. There's a lot of reasons not to.
In this household.
Hey, I played Roblox a lot back then.
Don't let them. Don't buy Roblox for your kids' sports decision.
Yeah. But yes, Minecraft absolutely should be in this list.
No, I just gotta cross my
so
fingers
important
that
to so many
someone
people.
else picks my actual pick.
I mean, if you asked YouTube, Minecraft is the biggest game in the world, right? I mean,
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, it kind of is the biggest game in the world.
I mean, it is.
GTA
It's not
5,
just. You're right. You're like. It's like I said. It's so important to so many people. It's like fundamental, but also just like in the YouTube space, like it's almost its own platform within that space too. Like they could have like its own like when you go down to genre, Minecraft could be its own genre within YouTube, you know.
Yeah, didn't something come out recently? They were like the percentage of YouTube videos, it was like 15 to 20% of all YouTube videos were Minecraft videos or something. Like,
and they celebrate that.
Like
and it speaks volumes that I'm not surprised. And it's like, oh yeah, that lines up. That lines up.
Yeah. Like my generation grew up on this.
What's that?
Do we trust Wikipedia?
I thought you said, did we put Wikipedia on this list? So I'm
Yeah.
like, yes, my favorite indie game, Wikipedia.
No, it's like they say it's like number 1 best-selling game of all time.
Oh yeah, I'm not, like I said, not surprised. Like, and it doesn't matter what form it comes in. Kids will just play it on like their like, I don't know, their Windows phones, like like on just the most potato devices, like
Lenovo or whatever,
wherever and however they can get it, they get it. It's an important game. I personally think it's boring, but that's me. So there you go. Sorry.
Dang.
Yeah.
And Fortnite, man.
I don't hate it. I appreciate
anything that's popular.
What it does. Yeah.
I like good games, Troy Olsson.
Troy, I was like you once.
Yeah.
I had no follow-up to that.
About not Fortnite, Minecraft, Josh.
Okay, let's move on. Izayah, what is your last pick? Make it count.
I was actually asking Josh if you wanted anything specific to add to Minecraft.
It's a good game. You should play it, Troy. You idiot.
I've played more than 20 hours of Minecraft.
More than you have Fortnite, so that's good.
Yeah, hey, actually, I've played more than 20 hours of Fortnite.
That's surprising.
Wow.
Yeah, I probably put about 50 plus hours into Fortnite. Yeah. In its like original form.
That's crazy.
Of the, it was before seasons. I played a lot.
I mean, I didn't like Fortnite back in the original season, so.
Yeah, it was whatever. It was, like I was playing on console and PUBG wasn't available to me and Fortnite came out and I was like, I want to see what this, Battle Royale is all about. And I got it.
And you're like, this sucks.
I was like, okay. And I moved on. But okay. Moving on. Izayah, please pick the one I'm thinking in my head so I don't have
feeling
to
the same way.
burn another one of mine.
God, what? Can you give me like a code?
No, I'm joking. No. You need to
Okay. I'm a little bit at a crossroads. Should I pick the this
No,
game
no,
or
don't
that
ask.
game?
No, don't ask us. Yeah, you just have to pick.
Okay.
The sanctity of this list must be protected.
Oh no, I know what he's gonna pick.
Do you?
I'm thinking. Oh no. Okay, are you gonna pick that?
No. I hold on.
Sorry, listeners. We have the list in front of us, and he just highlighted something. I'm having to kill some real time because of Isaiah's nonsense right now.
I'll pull it out. It's
I
Shovel
think that was
Knight.
me that highlighted.
Shovel Knight.
Yes.
All right.
Thank
sure.
you.
Shovel Knight. So I'm at a crossroads with like a story heavy game and this game. Shovel Knight, however, was one of these games back in like 2014, 2013 of Kickstarter that promised this huge project, 4 different campaigns, different characters you get to play as, and these like campaigns would be free with the launch of the first campaign. Shovel Knight delivered. It gave you 4 different experiences of kind of experiencing the same story in different times and sometimes same time periods. But it's just, oh my god. Shovel Knight is that game where you can just like go in, play it, and you'd be like, yeah, this is pretty cool. But the variety it has to it with its base mechanics being a shovel knight, you literally like do like was it like DuckTales sort of like a bounce thing?
The pogo feels really good.
Yeah. You have like this like
your attack deflects things. It's
yeah, it's a platformer.
Dig.
You can dig.
Absolutely.
Like Minecraft.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shovel Knight is just that platformer that anyone can jump into and just like have like the most fun with it. It's like
I think it's overworld, like all its overworld stuff is really good. Like all the towns,
cool.
all the little secrets in like the overworld, like where you can get like upgrades and stuff. That's all hidden. It's not hidden, but it kind of feels like you're stumbling on fun stuff all the time. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that like it's like the platforming like side scrolling indie game to play if you want to get into indie games. It has a story where you're Shovel Knight and you had a comrade fell and like this terrible like accident of wanting to like sought out for treasure and you're in this big depression as Shovel Knight and then boom the land is like overthrown by evil, so now you Shovel Knight, again such a goofy concept but awesome, have to overthrow all of them including the witch and just prevail. And with these 3 other campaigns you get to play as 3 of the bosses from like your first campaign, and it's amazing. And they have something like such cool and like new mechanics. The second campaign has you play as a plague knight. You have these bombs that can like keep you in the air. You can like mix and match these bombs to like do different things, do different ways to attack and traverse the levels. You have Spectre Knight, literally Tony Hawk Pro Skater in a 2D like side-scrolling like indie game. I'm not exaggerating that.
Get my hopes up, Izayah.
It's amazing. It is fun and it is just sick. And then you have the what's it called? What's his name? King Knight, that brings in Final Fantasy IX's card game mechanic into this game and makes it like a whole spiel where you're playing Yu-Gi-Oh! You're playing Yu-Gi-Oh! With all the knights, and it's like I'm
playing Tetramaster in that game. I didn't know that.
Yes, you are.
Oh my god, you should have told me that.
Shovel Knight innovates on itself in so many ways that you don't expect it to. Its story, while simple, can be very sweet through all 4 playthroughs, and it's a package that will have you continue to replay it like I did when I first bought it on my 2DS. I went for the New Game Plus route, and I still have the most fun with it. This is the indie game.
Also,
your kids into
Jake Kaufman, the composer, does a big job on that.
Amazing
OST. Yeah.
The availability of this game, by the way, is like it's like everywhere.
Speaking of availability, it launched exclusively on 3DS and the Wii U. So I felt pretty special playing it on my Wii U. I'm probably one of the probably 50 people playing Shovel Knight on the Wii U right now, while everyone else is playing on 3DS.
I'm sure you were.
But yes, it's been ported to everything since then.
Even my iPhone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I did literally a new Shovel Knight. I don't understand how they make money. They just put free content. They just put free content on that game for like a decade. I'm like, how are they still just? They haven't like released a full price. Well, I think when they launched on the Switch with the Treasure Trove edition.
Yeah.
Yes. I want to say that probably made them a fair amount of cash right there.
Yeah, they were just fulfilling what they promised to the backers, so they already had all that money.
And they did it.
And then the fact that every time they released a new campaign, that gave them even more what is it called?
Momentum?
Put their name. Sure.
It's like
infamy.
No, recognition,
sure.
And if
brand recognition.
Yes. If you like the idea of only playing like the
also Shovel Knight is in everything. Like every indie game for like the last 5 years, Shovel Knight is in it in weird ways. You're just like, okay,
it should be more.
I should also mention that you can buy these campaigns separately. If you want to get Shovel Knight, get Shovel Knight. If you want to get like the Plague Knight, get Plague Knight. You want to get Spectre Knight. That's like you can get you can buy these campaigns separately as well if you just want to experience one of them.
You can.
Yeah, you can. Shovel of Hope, and like Spectre Knight.
Okay, I'm gonna go against Isaiah. Don't do that. Buy Treasure Trove. It's not
Treasure Trove is a good deal. Yes. Yeah.
But if you want to do that, it's out there. But play it. Play Shovel Knight Treasure Trove. I'm telling you, it's the indie game ever. I love it. You should love it.
The indie game ever.
Let's go.
All right, Colton, last pick.
Yeah, try to follow that one up.
I was really banking on no one picking Minecraft, so I was really hoping that would be my last one.
I'm terribly sorry.
It's okay. I just spent like the last 10 minutes trying to panicking, trying to pick.
I put it on the list. It's right here, dude.
I see it.
Okay, sure. Ultimate Chicken Horse.
Yeah.
That is a joke. However, that is probably one of the best multiplayer games I've ever played.
It's a shout.
I right now I'm tied.
We have multiple significant others that hate that game, and I think that's really funny too.
Yeah.
And they're so wrong. I don't know.
It's a great game. It's so much fun.
Oh God,
very funny.
Here, right here.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I like What Remains of Edith Finch too. I really am tied between two of them, and I just no stop it. You're making this worse.
We're bullying Colton.
I'm gonna have to lock down this Google Doc.
I guess I'll just go with this one. I think Stardew Valley should be.
No.
There you go.
Man, yeah, what we're going to do without a farming game? I agree.
I disagree.
I think that game surprised me more than almost any other game on this list. Maybe not have surprised me more than The Witness. The Witness really surprised me with how much I liked it. But
I'm with you too. Yeah.
Just Stardew Valley. I never played a farming game. I never had interest in playing one. I heard so much about it. I heard all the stuff you could do in that game, and I really fell down that Stardew hole. Like I was playing nothing but that game for the longest time. I was making sure I was buying the best crops for the season. You have to really make as much profit as you can. You have to do some research. Be like, okay, these pumpkins, they take 14 days to mature. That's over half the season gone. I have to make sure I plant enough to make a profit, but I also have to make enough within those 14 days to buy other seeds, and I have to make sure I'm upgrading my weapon. So on the days when I can't farm anything, I'll go in the caves and mine, and and do some go hunt some enemies and look for diamonds and stuff. And I don't know, and then you can romance anybody in the game.
Yes, I was waiting for you to say that.
And the story behind like the evil supermarket in the town that's trying to take over, and you can either
There's a
choose...
story.
Yes, there is.
Yeah. There's like Walmart's trying to buy out the.
Yeah, Walmart's
A
trying to
little
like buy out the
supermarket.
whole town.
Dude, all I
and you
did
can-
for like freaking 20 hours is just like plant the same freaking plant over and over again. Didn't talk to anybody.
Oh, well, you were playing that way wrong.
I
You
missed
gotta
Farm
make-
Bill.
you gotta
Leave me
make-
alone.
You gotta make soup for the town.
Gotta mix.
Yeah, you can make soup for the town, and
Gotta hit
for
up the
some
babes.
reason you can like the mayor. Like the first thing the mayor talks to you about is he's missing his underpants, and he does, and like 20 hours later, you can befriend one of the ranch ladies, and if you befriend her enough, she'll let you in her house, and for some reason his underpants are in her room, and you can sneak the underpants into the Christmas stew, and then he makes a big scene in front of everybody. It's like, oh, why are my underpants in here? And it's the weirdest game, and it really captured my heart. It is such a good game. I love it so much.
I actually have a lot of respect for the developer of this game. Like,
Me too.
He made this
Yeah.
like all by himself. He learned how to do like the art and
Eric
everything
Barone.
in like 6 years. That's crazy.
It's amazing how
He
he's
went
done
from
it.
0 to 100 just so fast.
He maintained a relationship, by the way, through the course of the development. It's
Well, I didn't
insane.
get into his personal life.
I'm sorry.
Leave the man
He
alone.
had some privacy.
It's out there.
He offered his significant other rocks enough to where she kept saying, because that's what I did in Stardew. So it must have worked for him too. All right. Here's a nice rock. You guys have put me in a real tough position here.
You put yourself
Actually,
last.
I didn't realize I was going to be the last pick, and they're like,
You made the list.
I
You
know it made the
stupid.
list, but now that I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh my God. There are like 3 games I feel very strongly about, 2 of them especially.
If you put one of them, I will like have a hissy fit about if you put it on the list.
I know which one you're talking about.
I don't think you do,
Um,
unless you've talked to Colton recently.
Eh? Oh,
I know
God.
what he's talking about.
This is really tough. Now I'm the one. Now you guys are going to cover for me because I'm
And
having
I apologize.
I'm having a
for saying,
crisis.
For saying hissy fit. No one says that.
No,
ever.
Came out of nowhere. My mom says that.
Okay, I'm going to go with.
Do it.
I'm gonna have to go with
okay.
Celeste.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Celeste.
I can breathe.
I think it's such a pleasant little game about such a deep topic, and it kind of
It's not
does it. It kind of also it's a very challenging platformer, but
It's very
I
pleasant,
find that very pleasant. Yeah, those are the type of games where I can just sit back and be like, "Wow, I died. Let's roll it again." You know,
We just talked about
occupies
Stardew
my
Valley, and
mind.
you're like, you choose to use pleasant for Celeste, one of the most.
It is
challenging-
Stardew Valley. Like management games make me very on edge. Hard as nails platformers are the ones that I'm just like, this is nice.
We're complete opposites.
I
Bloodborne,
replayed
you're like,
that.
ooh.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's
My
what
damn.
I use soul games to do the same thing. I was just like,
I
wipe my
wind
mind.
down to boss fights.
Yeah.
Yes.
I replayed that
Um,
game Celeste for like 3 different times, dude. It's amazing.
Is it done?
Yeah, just the everything down to like the visuals to the sound effects. Like usually, sometimes it can get a little grating when like characters talk, but the sound effects they made for like Celeste and all her, it's just very pleasant, and the soundtrack is amazing. I think it's Lena Raine, right?
Yes, it is Lena Raine.
Yes, Lena Raine can sit very comfortably next to Toby Fox and Jake Kaufman in the trifecta of indie game composers. But Celeste, it just I expected like a really solid platformer, and it is. It kind of takes cues from like Super Meat Boy, but it's even a little more thoughtful than that. And so it's definitely like a skill-based platformer, but it's really the story and the direction and the tone and mood that everything takes that I didn't expect. like there's like a haunted castle you go to, and it's all like it's really interesting to like explore, and it kind of has a Metroidvania feel about how you like go around it. There's interesting like character dynamics that happen while you're in these places, and I think the thing that really gets me is that it really doesn't show its true colors. Every level it throws like another curveball at you on the platforming angle, and you're like, wow, like my character's like controls didn't change, but it's just like really clever, really good feeling mechanics. Like I think the first time it really hit me was when I think it might be in that like haunted castle where you get those like star blocks that you kind of warp through.
Yeah.
And everything just feels really nice and tight. And it's kind of like those scenes in Ori, those like escape scenes.
Yeah.
I really feel like they did those better, but that's like the whole game. Like everything feels like you're hitting it exactly when you should have hit it. And if you would have been a second late or a second too soon, that wouldn't have happened. So it feels really good to like nail the platforms and get proficient at the game. And then you get treated to like a really kind of heavy story about like depression, like self-doubt and stuff. And that's all really well done. It's not super on the nose either.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, by the end, I mean, you kind of like face like yourself.
Dark,
like
it's a dark version of her.
I guess.
Overcome.
I guess, but it could have been more cringy than it is, and it's less the writing and less the character dynamics. They do a lot with like the music and the environment to like show the tone of what's happening, and I appreciate that. So it's not as direct as some games can be. Like what's the Square Enix like? A Stranger Things.
Life is Strange.
Oh, Stranger in Paradise?
Yes, like Life is Strange. It's not like playing through that and like me rolling my eyes. I know people love that game. I'm sorry for anyone that does, but that game, I just roll my eyes so hard at that game. Like it tries to tackle a lot of those things. And I was just like, oh God. Like, here we go. Here's the ABC family.
Yeah, I was gonna say like a CW show, like
totally. It's totally that. And I can't stand that. So it really does avoid a lot of that, and it does it in a really cool fashion. And I think that developer is really good.
Matty Thorson's awesome.
Yes, Matt makes games. So congratulations, he got 2 games on here.
She transitioned, by the way.
I'm really glad we decided to do a special mention because I was really torn on that last bit. But again, this was my game of the year in a year where God of War, Spider-Man, Red Dead, a bunch of games were there. And this is the one I left being like, man, that was so good. And super intense. That last like boss battle is one of the most memorable, like intense platforming sections I think I've ever played in a game.
Yeah.
Where you're like dodging those beams and jumping between platforms. It just feels, I think it's why I want to play Neon White. Neon White seems to have a lot of Celeste energy in the way you're chaining your platforms and your abilities in like a 3D environment. I almost think like Neon White is almost like a 3D Celeste in my eyes, not having played it, but
that's close.
What did that guy make? The Neon White guy, what was his?
Donut County.
Donut County.
Oh yeah, that's weird.
Insane, right?
And Ben Esposito, right? Yeah.
Yes. Awesome.
Cool.
Okay, so before we move on, let's go through our list. So, our picks for our essential indie games for Big Bandit Gaming is, I'm gonna have each of us say the games we picked.
Oh gosh, get back to the list. Castle Crashers.
And the K Story.
Colton.
Oh, wouldn't it?
My first pick was Hotline Miami.
Hello. Did y'all not hear me?
Yeah, we got you. We got you.
Oh.
Tower Fall.
Ascension.
Yeah.
Nice.
Undertale. Colton.
God damn. Hold on, sorry.
He's looking through this.
Rocket League.
When I edit this, by the way, those pauses won't be there, so we'll just suddenly start breaking in the right away. Colton, you'll just be like, "Dang it!" It's very funny.
Let me do it again. Rocket League.
Nice. All right, I've got Hollow Knight.
Hades.
A Hat in Time.
Oh, Donut County.
Journey.
Minecraft.
Shovel Knight.
Stardew Valley.
And last, I have
Luigi.
Celeste. All right, so now we're gonna pit our lists against each. No, I'm kidding. Part
What's
3.
the better
No,
game?
I'm joking. This has gone far too long. So real quick, we still have this huge list ahead. And sorry, dear listeners, we are not gonna read this entire list because then we're gonna end up talking about the games. So real quick fire. What are 2 games on here that stand out to you that we might have overlooked, or if we had a larger list, would definitely be on there? Josh.
Okay, so real quick, my 2 are actually not on this list. Number 1
interesting.
is in reference to A Hat in Time. That is a game that I would probably really enjoy because I loved New Super Lucky's Tale, and I don't even know if that studio is still around, but that game is one of the most enjoyable games I've ever played. Also, Forager, which is just a really, really small indie game that I played on Game Pass. I had no idea what the game was. I was just like, yeah, it's a cute character. Downloaded it, and I was like, it's strange. It's like a pseudo survival. Like it's like over. I don't know how to describe it. You're crafting a bunch of stuff, kind of like another game on this list, Don't Starve, where you're like, there's just less things trying to kill you. Essentially, it's really cute. It's really fun, charming. Try it out.
Nice. All right, Izayah, what are we overlooking here?
All right,
Give me
yeah.
2.
Totally go check out Neon White, same developers or same I think director or whatever. For Donut County made Neon White, a game for freaks, and it has that like speed running like a score chasing like play style that it really grips you. You always want to keep replaying those levels like, oh, well, how can I do this faster? We're going to cut time. Where's like a shortcut I could find? And those mechanics that they have in that game, they are continuously building up on each other, and it continuously challenge you in neat, interesting, and fun ways. Hard recommend. My other pick is Rivals of Ether, one of my favorite platforming fighting games of all time, next to Smash Ultimate itself. That guy, the lead developer, I forget his name, something Daniel, I forget, but basically it's another platform fighting game. The cast is smaller, but because it's so much smaller, you have so many characters that feel much more different and diverse in their mechanics and their depth of where you can take them. I highly recommend it. It's on Nintendo Switch. It's on your mom's PC. Go check it out. Same with Neon White, same case. Love this game. Go check it out.
Did you just make like a secret your mom joke and play totally straight?
Sounded like it.
Because bravo for just riding right past that. All right, cool. Thank you, Izayah. Colton, what are we looking at?
Well, I have another puzzle game. It is Outer Wilds. I think.
Yes, thank you.
I think that's just another puzzle game that doesn't hold your hand, and I think it's another rare game that trusts you to figure out the puzzle without giving you the answer. I think they find really clever ways to do stuff like that with exploration and even just the storytelling in the game is really interesting too when you get down to it. It's a lot of environment or storytelling, and I always like that. And then my second,
did you finish that one?
No,
I didn't think so.
I refuse to look up the answer for a certain puzzle, and it's really killing me. But
it's a pattern forming.
Oh yeah, I know, I understand. As you can tell, I really like games. I just sometimes can't finish them.
Yeah.
My second nomination is probably the game that I was kind of struggling to pick last, and just ended up picking Stardew Valley. But like I said, halfway through this podcast, I didn't think about it being an indie game, but I guess it might be. Is No Man's Sky. I think that out of all of these games, probably had the roughest launch. I'm looking through.
Oh yeah,
by far had the roughest launch. I think where it is now is one of the best games on the planet, and I think it's amazing. I can't think of another game that just adds as much as they have without charging.
It's gross how much they keep adding to that game.
I think what they've been doing with that game is perfect. I love it, and every update just seems to make it better and better. Except the multiplayer not working currently, but whatever. I can forgive them for that. So those are my two.
All right, cool. Thanks. So my last two is Cuphead and the Delicious Last Course. We've said a lot of things recently about Cuphead, but it's amazing art style, just still wholly unique, and probably so hard to do that another studio probably wouldn't even touch it. They do it with such flair, and the gameplay is so tight and fun and difficult. Another relaxing game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm surprised you didn't pick this as one of your four.
I know. I it was between that and Celeste, and I was just like,
Could have picked
Celeste has a more emotional experience attached to it too. I love Celeste. It beat God of War. It beat God of War. All right, and then my last pick. Oh, this is so difficult. I'm gonna say this is the most underrated game on this list, and it has not had its due, and I don't know if it ever will, but it's one of the best games on this entire list, and that is Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom. It is.
Sorry.
It is a Metroidvania game where you play as Monster Boy, and he can turn into different monsters, and he gives him different abilities, which comes into play with the Metroidvania sections, but it goes past that. You have like gear and armor and items, so it ends up being more of a Zelda game than a Metroidvania game. So it's like a perfect mix of that, because when you get items, you get to go into dungeons, and that's how you solve certain dungeons and get past certain things.
Oh,
so
this game looks weird.
It's the perfect mix between like a Zelda and a Metroid game. The music, again, I'll always mention the music, but the music has like A-listers like Yuzo Koshiro, a Streets of Rage fame, up to David Weiss, a Donkey Kong. I mean, just like it has a ton of composers, and all the music is just so good. And art style takes a little getting used to, but once you get used to it, it's actually like really pretty what they do with the lighting and the level design, bar none. All the platforming is great. It's such an underrated game. It's one you don't hear anyone talk about, but if you do, you'll hear nothing but good things. It just came out a little expensive. Came out $40, which I think is justified. It's a very big game, like more expansive than you would think. But it's been on sale. It's on Switch. Hopefully it's on Game Pass at some point. That'd be a really good. I hope people start playing this as like a game book club like we do, because it deserves so much more praise and attention than it does.
Then why don't we do it?
Yes, yeah. We should. How I mean, I overlooked this game completely. It was John Linneman of Digital Foundry did his top 5 games of the year. And he did this like he does all the DF retro stuff, which is just excellent too. But he went 5 minutes and just completely sold me on the game. And even past then I played it and it went totally past my expectations. So man, just a killer game. Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom. If you've never heard of it, play it. It's good. It's really good. If you like Zelda or Metroidvania games, this is your jam. And yeah, that's my last pick.
Yeah,
beautiful.
It's awesome, and it's funny how we always like talk about like the music of these games. By the way, flashy goodness, Bryos will be the composer. Awesome on Spotify.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh, hey.
We love a Spotify.
Monster Boy is $13.99 right now on Nintendo Switch.
Oh my gosh!
Ooh,
yes. And if you do get it on one of your big boy consoles, it is at like 4K 120 and 4K 60 and stuff. So they've updated it with the newer generation stuff too. I think they just put a Series X and S patch on it, so it looks razor sharp. It's really good. So yeah, hey, you guys, we'll talk about this maybe later. That'd be an excellent playthrough, because that is just a game that does not get enough attention. But all right. Then that's our show. Thanks for joining us. It was long as usual. This went longer than I originally thought it would, but that's just how
what we do.
That's what we do. You know,
Every
just take
time.
a break in the middle. I might, just.
I love long podcasts.
Take some time with yourself. Long walks. You're just like kicking a can, listen to game podcasts.
Fall asleep to us. It's okay. We don't mind.
Yeah. Yes, our podcast is the perfect podcast to fall asleep to.
I randomly screaming.
Absolutely.
Me peeking my mic
How
audio.
dare you, Troy?
Yeah, every time Izayah laughs, I'm gonna actually manually turn up the level. It is just harsh. We love you, Izayah. It's great. All right.
Thank you.
And that is our show. So thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. I haven't done a plug in a while, so you can. We have a Instagram and a Twitter that Colton thankfully runs, and I super appreciate that. We also have a Patreon, so. There are hidden expenses to running this podcast, so any amount would help, and you get access to our Discord. We're on there a lot, so if you like what you hear and you want to get involved, that will get you into our Discord, and we'd love to see you. So that is our show, and thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye. Go play these games.